Everybody, this is Michelle with Fun in Key West, and welcome back to another episode of Wandering Wednesday. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about the best dive shops in Key West from a non-diver's perspective, which is mine. I don't dive. I can barely, but I had a lot of people asking me about diving and what they can expect, and I thought, you know what? I will do some research and let you guys know. And so this is what I know about diving in the Florida Keys. If you guys have this way more often, know way more about this than I do, let me know. Share your knowledge with the group so that we can get everybody the information that they need. Some of the questions come up on is where to dive. You have Key West versus Key Largo. And so here are some of the differences. Key Largo is known as the dive capital of the world and has some of the best dive locations in North America. You have Molasses Reef and Spiegel Grove over there. Key West, though, is home to wreck dives, coral reefs, and artificial reefs inside the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. So I think it's one of those of what are you looking for and what kind of dive do you want to do would be where you would probably start off. As I always say, if you can do it, do both and then figure out which one you like best. The pros of being in Key West, well, it's easier to combine a vacation of fun nightlife. You've got Duval, you've got all the fun things around Key West. And Key West also offers a unique shipwreck like the USNS General Hoyt S. Vandenberg, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. That's one of the cool things is trying to determine what are you going to see and what you can see. In my research, it was determined when is the best time to dive. November to May is going to be your best time to dive because the waters are calmer. You get better visibility because when the waters get all churned up, you're not going to see very much. And it also helps you avoid hurricane season. So that's a good thing to know, right? If you're looking for a dive shop or a place that offers more information than I could ever give you, here are some places to check out. You have Dive Key West Incorporated, and this place is a full service dive center with a custom dive boat. And so, which means there's more space and fewer people on the boat. They offer refresher classes and instructional training for those who haven't dived in a while. There's also Lost Key Adventures, located in the Key West Bight Marina, and they offer wreck dives, so you would go diving down to a wreck, and afternoon dual reef dives, which that means just in the afternoon, it's more scaled for beginners, but we'll get more into that as well. They also do snorkel trips, so if you're not fully into diving and you want to go snorkeling, they offer snorkel trips and again, those refresher classes. There's also the Key West Dive Center, and they offer snuba guides and for those who don't have certification. So that combines snorkeling and diving. So, if you're just on the edge there, it's something to explore. And they do morning wreck dives and they offer day of trip reservations, which, for what I'm finding out, is pretty unique. And then there's Star Dive Center, and this is good for small groups, and they offer some personal service, and they offer certification courses, and it's a great place for advanced divers. And then one of the other questions I get all the time is, okay, if I'm going to stay in Key West and go diving, what are some of the best dive sites off of Key West? And this is based on how deep they are, what are you going to see, and everything. So the first one, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, was the USNS General Hoyt S. Vandenberg. It's a wreck dive. And this was a troop transport ship that they intentionally sunk to create an artificial reef. When you see this out on TV and you learn all about this, they take these old ships and they intentionally sink them. They create a way for marine life to live in there and for you as you dive down in there to explore them. And the Vandenberg happens to be one of the largest artificial reefs in the United States. And that's right there in the Florida Keys. It's about 60 to 140 feet deep, so it's not for beginners. Second place is the Western Dry Rocks. And this place is known for its vibrant coral reefs, tropical fish, and I think there's even been some Goliath groupers that have been spotted over there. This place is perfect, they say, for beginners and experienced divers because it's only about 30 to 50 feet deep. You also have the Cayman Salvager, which is another shipwreck, and it's in about 90 feet of water. But this one, where it's located, you're going to have some strong currents, they say, around it. So probably for your more advanced divers is where you're going to go, or are going to go to that one. A fourth one to check out would be the Western Sambo. And this is located in the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. And it has shallow depths, so this is a great place to go snorkeling because it's not going to be very deep. And one of the last places that I found that you probably want to check out is Lou Key. This, they say, is one of the most beautiful coral reef sites in the Florida Keys. And it is in depths from 5 or 15 to 100 feet. And so it's a great choice for no matter where your skill level is. So I hope that gives you some ideas to start exploring. And whenever you start talking to some of these dive shops, that you can have an idea of at least where they're wanting to go or where they go. And you can ask some questions. One of the other questions I get was, what's the difference between wreck diving and reef diving? Since I don't dive, I had to figure this out. Wreck dives, when you go down and dive around a wreck, these are best for certified divers and those with advanced open water training because you are going to be in the open water and there could be some currents. Reef dives, you're just going to be around the reefs. You can have limited certification, and we talked about some of those places. So depending on if you want to see a wreck or a reef is going to depend on your skill level. If you're not a diver, which I'm not, now let's kind of dive, not that I am, excuse the pun, but if we're not a diver and we're trying to figure out what can you expect on a dive trip. So maybe you've got family members who are going and you're not going to go and you're thinking, I wonder what it's going to be like. You have morning dives and afternoon dives. A morning wreck dive is usually for your more advanced divers. They're going to go out and it's usually in the deeper waters because they're going to go out in the morning because it's going to take longer to get out there. Afternoon dives are going to go to the more shallow. They're more for your more beginning divers, and they're going to be a little shorter trips. When you start looking at the different options of boats, you have a custom dive boat. So this is smaller groups. It's a lot more comfortable versus a cattle boat. So think party fish boat on this one. So you have cattle boat is for bigger groups. It's more budget friendly. Again, I kind of equate this to a private charter for fishing and then a party boat for fishing. Some of the things that they do offer on the boat that you're going to look for, depending on what kind of dive you're doing, is are they going to have freshwater showers so you can rinse all that salt water off of you? Are you going to have a camera table? And this is for those of you who do underwater photography. And are they going to have art on the dive boat? Something cool and something fun to look at. So do you need to be certified to dive? Yeah, as we talked about, most of these trips are going to require you to be certified or have some sort of certification. So most dive trips are going to require you have at least a PADI open water certification. And if, some of these trips, as we talked about, offer limited certifications, or if you've been diving before but you need a quick refresher course, some of these dive shops offer that as well. You might have to show proof of dive experience to be able to go on some of these dive trips. It's for your safety and for their safety. And if you haven't dived for a while, I would highly recommend taking a refresher course. Now, if you're like me and you really don't want to go on a scuba dive, what else could we do to explore and see some of these cool things that are in the waters around Key West and the Florida Keys? Well, you could go on a snorkel trip. Some of these reefs are just 10, 20 feet and you're going to be able to see them. You can do a snuba guide or go out snoobing. So it's snorkeling and they have water or air coming into you. So You can go a little bit deeper. You don't need a certification with that. And also, there's there's a couple glass bottom boat tours you can take. So if you absolutely don't want to get in the water, you can do that. If you're planning on going on a dive trip and you're trying to figure out how to do this, here's some tips. Book your dive trip reservation early because number one, they get busy. Number two, weather is always a factor, and you want to make sure that if you were absolutely coming to the Keys to go diving, like I say on all of these excursions, if this is something you absolutely want to do, you're going to want to make sure that you get it booked early, because if it has to be rebooked or moved because of weather, you'll have time. This one was interesting, and I didn't realize this, but you need to use caution if you're flying out of the Florida Keys or Key West after you've dived. And for what I found out was you have to wait at least 18 hours after diving before you board a flight. I think that has a lot to do with depth and all of that. And if your travel plans change, make sure you can look at cancellation policies and how will that affect? Do you get a credit? Do you get your money back? All of that. You want to make sure all of that is out there. Some fun, interesting things as we wrap up this best dive shops in Key West from a non-diver perspective. The Coral Restoration Foundation is doing amazing things to help protect the Key West reefs and everything around the Florida Keys. If this is a passion of yours, regardless of if you dive or not, check them out, see what you can do to support them. Much like fishing and bonding over Key West, this activity will create some lifelong friends, and you'll meet amazing people on these boats, and you'll have these experiences to go back to Duval Street and talk all about. So if you've not been diving and want to do some of that while in Key West or the Florida Keys, I hope this gave you a little bit of an overview, gave you some ideas. If I've missed out on some information that from those of you who do dive and you're thinking this is absolutely crucial that Michele, you should have included, let me know, and we'll do an update or put it in the comments below. I'm easy either direction. There's a lot of information over at FunInKeyWest.com, and I know you know that, but I want you to head over there, sign up for our newsletter, check out everything that we have over there. We cover everything from where to eat, where to stay, where to drink, and things to do. Plus, you can book your activities right there off of our site, and because we work with the most amazing travel partners. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Wandering Wednesday, and you guys have a great one, and we'll talk to you later.